Okay, so we have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order at 4:37. And the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for October 8th.
Cindy,
And is there
motion?
Cindy, that was motion? Second?
Yep, I will second. I read it
All in
earlier.
favor of approving the agenda? Oh, yes. Does the public have any input on the agenda at this time? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the agenda as submitted? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3, public input. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. Does the public have any input at this time? Public, would you like to introduce yourself?
Me? Yeah. My name is Lori Ponte. I go by Lorraine Ponte too.
Hi, Lori. Welcome to the meeting.
And I apologize. I don't know your first name.
Kelly Costa.
Kelly. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, thanks. So, no other public input. We'll move on to item 4, which is to review and approve the agenda minutes from the September 10th meeting, which are attached to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Can I prove them even though I wasn't here? I was not in attendance to that meeting, but
Yep.
okay. But I did read through them and seemed like what normal kind of discussion from past. So I'll approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, so there's a motion, and is there a second? Cindy, since you prepared the minutes?
I know, I'm kind of going,
It's like, it's kind of a weird duck.
okay, I second.
Okay, all in favor?
And
Does the
I
public have any
second.
comment on the minutes included in the package? Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Unanimous minutes. Moving up to item 5, retail cannabis ordinance. Darcy was on that committee and she is not here yet, but also there's a discussion item for the City of Eureka meeting later tonight where they someone has requested another dispensary permit for a building that they have. So that'll be maybe there'll be some interesting comments at that.
Yeah, I was hoping that we could kind of track that discussion too and just see what Eureka is seeing. I think they'll have some comments from their planners just on kind of is there saturation of the market? Does that really matter if a business is willing to, make that investment? Does the city really have a role in second guessing that? I'm not sure. So it will be interesting to kind of see what their staff comes up with and kind of get a feel for kind of where the market's going.
Okay. Does the public have any comments on a retail cannabis ordinance? Yes, Lori, if you like.
I think it's on already.
It's on. Okay. My name is Lori Ponte. I live here in Blue Lake, 11th Street. I think from the beginning, I was sort of probably on record somewhere stating that I really felt that a cannabis retail um, business isn't the best for Blue Lake. We don't have essentials, and I was talking to a couple of my kids, and they're like, cannabis is kind of like alcohol. It's kind of more of a luxury. It's sort of discretionary money that you can spend. And a lot of people here don't have transportation. They have issues with being able to get out. And so bringing in, I mean, I understand the desperation for income and retail business. It just thinks that because of our size, because we have a school so close by to everything, which is considered the downtown, that and then the potential development of the opportunity zone, which would be for families and recreation. Um, I think that if people wanted to bring their own substances in and partake in appropriate areas, that's one thing. But to actually have a retail business that, for the only reason that we really want it is because of income. is probably not the strongest argument for it. So I just kind of wanted to share that when I saw this item on your minutes, because I have three grandkids, or two grandkids, I should say two. Um, and they were born here. They go to school here. There's lots of kids here. We have a great ballpark, skating rink. I think it just isn't an element that would fit. And I don't know that, I mean, there is a lot of cannabis and dispensaries around. There's quite a few in your Arcata, which is the closest. Unless we have a different kind of transportation system, which gets people back and forth to um, to get what they need, I don't know that it's really a strong argument for seriously looking at adding a cannabis retail business in. Um, I just don't see it. We have a nice little coffee shop. We have a bar that we've had forever, which is great for people who like to go there. We have a dog house. We have things that we're able to get trucks to come in, but unless there's a mobile cannabis thing that comes in for events, I just don't see how it's a really good fit for Blue Lake. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on the cannabis ordinance at this time?
I haven't read the ordinance. It was
We
in
had
one of
a
our packets.
sample from the city of Weed at one point because we were aiming to have a very restrictive
Right.
ordinance. And this wouldn't be necessarily opening a place, it would be just changing the rules so that they don't prohibit somebody from doing this.
Which is
Yes.
it's not basically a Blue Lake city owned business, but you change the ordinance, and if someone says, hey, you're saying it's okay, I should be able to do this, you couldn't take that back. So even if it's a long pause on the discussion, I mean, I understand the need of revenue. It's huge. And I just don't think that is the revenue stream that we're gonna. I mean, there are a lot of people here who can't afford much. Rent is high, and we don't have a place to go out to eat on a regular basis. You can go to our food trucks that come in, and that's great for events, but it's not something that is sustainable on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, thank
So
you.
I think if you put it out there, you can't take it back. So you have to be careful about
Yeah.
how you step forward.
Those good points.
Okay, thank you. All right.
But do we have did you say that there was a sample of the ordinance?
Yeah, so when council originally started to look into this, the idea came forward, because the city precludes any type of retail commercial cannabis. When we went down that road early on, it was really focused on, we didn't really want to move into the arena of production cultivation. We wanted to, we just didn't really have the resources necessary to be able to make that investment, to even take something like that on for consideration. So the council had always said, in the future, if, things change, or if there was something more on like a retail side, maybe it was, like say Blue Heron, a botanical shop that maybe carried, salves or products, then that could be something that could be considered at a later date. But at that time, we just kind of took a hard no on the whole thing. And then it got brought to council several months ago to, maybe it's time to reconsider that, knowing that the market is pretty saturated and there's probably not a ton of interest. But in the event that there was interest for someone to come forward who had a business plan and was willing to make the investment, just like any other type of business, should the city preclude that from happening? I don't see that we have, there's definitely not a lot of people knocking on our door to do this, but you never know. I mean, honestly, I was surprised to see, it surprises me to see dispensaries still popping up in,
Yeah.
Arcata and Eureka and stuff. And so, things are kind of ebbing and flowing and things are, markets are kind of equalizing. So I'm not sure what direction that takes. Um, so council asked the EDC to kind of kick the idea over to this commission to do some research, do a little outreach, see how other cities are, dealing with the situation. Are they seeing this as something that's been helpful, or what are the problems associated with it, especially the smaller communities? Riadel and, Fortuna, and people, cities that are starting to, see these dispensaries come in. Like, have there been problems? Are they, are there things that the city could learn from them so we don't make, the same mistakes if the council were to decide to go down this road? So Roxanne and Darcy, they're on the ad hoc for this. And then our city attorney provided a sample ordinance from the city of Weed, who also kind of took a similar approach to kind of what the city was looking at, like a very narrow market approach, limited number of permits. They have a very small community as well. And so he felt that it was kind of a good starting point to kind of see how you could kind of box it in and also build in some, some hard breaks, to deal with concerns. So that's where it's kind of been the last couple months, is just, kind of, you guys have done some outreach. I think Roxanne, in her role with REDEC also has, more exposure to some of the local businesses and, just kind of seeing how things are going. So we haven't really picked up a ton of traction on it. And I think probably maybe this winter, council will want to revisit, kind of get a recommendation from the EDC and then decide what they want to do next. But I can get you a copy of that ordinance too, so you can look at
Yeah,
it
that'd
too.
be great.
Yeah.
As someone who manages commercial here locally, it'd be
Right. Yeah, I think the
valuable.
idea is just,
I mean, it's been asked a number of times to,
mhm,
to be sure not to rent to anyone. Like, I was like, well, you can't anyway.
yeah,
And um, but it can be a precarious situation.
It can be
right.
problematic for landlords. I mean,
Yeah.
these are
Absolutely.
businesses that are not
Hmm.
eligible for federal funding
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this yet, I guess. Maybe they're relaxing.
Yeah,
Even
things
with the
might
prohibition
change.
modified, it would still be.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I think,
so, but I would like to see, and then did you guys, have you ever heard how the city of Weed has done with their ordinance and their policy?
No, I was just thinking that would be an interesting thing to do, is just to follow up and see how it's working as far as regulating the
Mm-hmm.
market, or if they've had any interest or any takers in that.
Right, right. Because the town is condensed to a small
mhm,
space, and
yeah.
the placement of it could be concerning, and um, as you could put the ordinance in and then they not find anybody to rent
Mhm.
space to
Right.
them,
Right.
or a place to buy, that kind of thing. But for the right price, anything could happen. But it definitely feels like it should be very sought out as far as how tight the ordinance
Hmm.
should be.
Right.
And because you look in Eureka and they're on every other block,
Hmm.
it's really
There,
crazy. And
there's just as many as food. There are food trucks, and they're
yeah,
Right.
popping up like
and you
mushrooms.
wonder how they're all sustaining and
Uh-huh.
surviving, and people are working there and things
Right.
like that. But I would not like to foresee that that would be here for sure. But
Yeah.
there's empty spaces here that
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
could pop into, and look at Walmart in the middle of Eureka where there's not supposed to be a Walmart kind of thing.
Right.
Well, and I actually think that one of the mistakes that Eureka did was they did a bunch of rezoning and made them cannabis areas. And in that, some businesses were kicked out of where they were renting because
Rents
the
went up.
The
allure
rents,
of
yeah.
money.
Yep.
And, it's just that part we need to focus on our businesses and make sure that we don't forget the ones that have been here all these years. And if they can all live in harmony, that's great, but we should not forget our ongoing businesses, because when the cannabis bust, it's already starting.
Oh, we're
It's
well into
happened.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then
Still some stupid
that's
money out there, but it's
Yeah.
drying up
Hmm.
fast.
well, and
Yeah.
that's why I think we have problems with the county budget.
Mhm.
I think there was a lot of emphasis put on that was going to be the Green New Deal or whatever you want to call it. So
Fill the coffers.
yeah,
Yeah, the tax. Yeah.
and it didn't really work very well.
It
Yeah, and I
certainly
think
didn't
that
work
you
for
could,
Soham.
yeah, and you could look at, the like the what the planning commission's looking at tonight in Eureka is, a fairly large store that's got cultivation and sales and a lot of things built in. Um, I think more what was being discussed for Blue Lake, would it be more like the little, kind of botanical shop that's not necessarily, there's no cultivation, there's no processing, but if it's, tinctures or, different things that are more just retail products and not solely 100% just a dispensary, but could there be some type of hybrid that, allows certain types of products? And I don't know how that gets regulated, or
It's
if it
really
can
you
be.
can't walk into a dispensary until you show your ID and they
Right.
make sure you're of the
Yeah.
correct age.
Yep.
So a combination of like, a retail space where they sell lip balms and
Hmm.
bath stuff that are not cannabis related would eliminate a lot of customers. And
Hmm.
that doesn't seem like a viable. It's
Yeah.
not, at least not here yet, not in
And
California.
like I said, the city is definitely not out looking for these types of businesses, but in the event someone came forward and had a business plan and a model and the investment capacity, would the city, why would the city say no at that point if
Mm,
there was some, so I think that's more like,
Sure.
do we just say no altogether or do we let the market, kind of
Mhm.
bear some too? So, um,
And I think
I
the
don't
other
know.
thing, as far as like finding out from the city of Weed, the oversight from the city,
Hmm.
how well do they monitor to make sure that that dispensary is meeting all the requirements by the state?
Right.
And because there's quite a process to get your product into those and testing and things, and
Absolutely.
who's going to oversee that? And
I
the
think the
city?
state oversees
Yeah.
The
that.
state oversee, the
That's
city doesn't
the,
have any
the state
part to,
oversees its regulations.
and
We would
so
just have
the
an
city,
overlay that has them the opportunity to get a
okay,
business license and
And I
operate.
think there's at
But
the beginning there were different entry points for the cities, and that was one of the things like with the track and trace. Some of
right.
the cities did get in on the oversight, and it
Hmm.
cost hundreds of
It
thousands of
did.
dollars to get into that, and
Yeah.
staffing and regulatory stuff. And that was one of the things that immediately I recommended the city just not even consider it, because just the track and trace stuff alone was hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like,
And
and there
lots of
was
manpower.
there was no
but it's
way that we could.
job
Yeah,
creation,
right.
Yeah,
Job
right.
creation.
the taxpayer expense.
Good
Yes.
expense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the laws are going to be changing. I think there's going to be some hybridization of retail at some point soon. So it may be something that the city just wants to keep,
It
their
may not matter
eye
with full
forward. It may
legalization
not.
anyway. It may just
Exactly.
kind of be, and
Absolutely. I mean, you're already starting to see a lot of crossover products everywhere, whether it's just CBD products or, I mean,
Right.
you go to Murphy's and right at the checkout aisle is, different
Uh-huh.
CBD
Yeah.
products and, drinks. And I mean, I use
Sure.
CBD stuff on like my elbow and, and you're like, okay. And you're starting to just see more of it come into the market.
Hmm.
So, you know, I think at some point some of that's going to get relaxed even more for some of that product line.
Possibly.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Like I said, it's not something that the city, it's not on my radar for economic development. But like I said, it is something that I don't know that we would want to say no if someone did come in with a good plan. I don't know. And someone wants to make their own investment like any other business. I think that was just the mindset was, why would we treat them like any other business, if they're willing to, take a risk. So.
Right. Thank you.
okay. So we'll discuss this again at the next meeting and have some more information.
Great.
Moving on to item 6, vacant commercial property assessment ordinance discussion.
Yeah, so we've been kind of following this a little bit the last couple meetings. I brought this back to council or to the commission This had been something that had been brought up at the council, I think well over a year ago, and then the commission, we had discussed this too. Um, what what do we do to incentivize people cleaning up their vacant buildings, especially their commercial spaces, knowing that the city has a severe lack of commercial space, and some of the largest and most frontal properties that we do have are in a pretty um, uh, forward state of decline and need of repair. Um, and and what incentive is there for a property owner to make those investments if um, if the money's not there, if a property is so far in decline that it financially it's not feasible to make those investments anymore. But what does that do to the city and to the city's downtown? And what does it do to the neighboring businesses that are also trying to make it? And loss of space, the overall aesthetics, public health and safety issues associated with declining buildings, and then just kind of a loss of vibrancy and capacity to create more of a condensed atmosphere of economic vitality when you have these large vacant properties. So the city of Eureka recently passed a new ordinance, and it went back and forth. It was a little contentious. They worked with some of the real estate representatives, some of the bigger real estate managers. They worked, talked with property owners. I think their ordinance goes a little bit further than probably what the city would would want to focus on. They have a lot of issues with vacant buildings because they don't have tenants. Ours isn't. I don't think our need is really that we have vacant buildings for lack of tenants. I think we have vacant buildings for lack of capacity for those buildings to be viable tenant spaces. So I wanted to just kind of keep it on the radar to keep this conversation moving forward. We did talk about the last time possibly going and touring a couple of these buildings to kind of get a feel for, what the current state is, what the like what some of the needs might be and what could be some starting points.
Is the carbon plant still listed for sale?
It is, and actually, I'm going to be doing a walkthrough with their property manager next week. We've been in constant contact for the last 3 years, working to try and transition that property. They're very motivated to demolish that property, get it cleaned up, and hopefully, um, turn it over to a new property owner. There's a lot of interest in that property. It's also zoned opportunity. Our problem has been trying to get the next phase of environmental assessment on it. It needs a phase 2 environmental just to be able to clear the hurdles for financing and acquisition. The city has been talking with Calgon about acquiring the property, and then the city would then be able to turn around and either sell the property or work with a developer. And
Would
there's
you
been a lot
hold
of
it in
interest.
some sort of, is there a way to avoid taking on the liability from ownership with the potential for environmental contamination? Like,
That's the problem. So the concern with the property by the property managers right now is that there could be a low level contamination
if they
associated
need a
with it.
phase 2, something could surface and need a
We there Over the years there's been multiple environmentals, there's documentation. It was part of the whole Macintosh Mill site. And so
Mhm.
that site has been studied up one side
Impacted.
and down the other. All the properties down there have the same levels of exposure, and they're pretty low level. We are pretty confident that any low level exposure or contamination on the site could easily be remediated. The property owners, however, are a little bit more conservative and just are concerned because most people who do want to develop the property want to do mixed use. So they would like to do some form of housing with it. So looking at a multi story development with commercial retail on the bottom and 2 stories of apartment space. There's been talks, a couple of proposals to have rooftop patios and, maybe a restaurant space on the top floor because it's got probably the most beautiful view of anywhere in Blue Lake. So there's a high level of interest in developing the property, which I think could be amazing and, really could clean up a nuisance property but that's also what concerns the property owner is, if there is exposure through residential use, does that provide some type of legacy um, responsibility for them? And so that's what we're working with them to try and alleviate. The city could take on that property, and we could apply for a brownfield grant to clean it up. It's really small. It wouldn't be a problem at all. We've already talked to the county through their brownfield program, and there's resources available. The city could also be released from liability by working with a developer who would then assume the liability and remediate the problem through construction. It happens all the time. There's, properties all over Humboldt County that get redeveloped that maybe had an underground gas tank, or maybe it was a machine shop, or there was a leaking logging truck that parked there for years. So, and those are the types of contamination levels that we're really talking about. So pretty minor, but we do have a walkthrough next week. They're going to be bringing out a crew to look at the demolition. Getting the site demoed is probably like a real critical first step because it's a real nuisance property. It continually gets vandalized. And, there's concerns about, potential fire situations, they're just tired of managing it. It's just a lot of headache. So I think
How
the,
long has it been vacant now? It's more than
oh,
10
yeah,
years.
it's been, yeah, it's been a decade or more. So but yeah, so there's good conversations. I think that's probably the most developable site. We are, looking at folding that into a larger scale master plan, so that as these properties start to be looked at for different uses, we really want to look at how they can all be integrated so that we start looking at connectivity as far as ingress, egress, shared parking, trails, facility usage, landscaping, a whole host of things. So, the property next to Calgon, B&B, and then Tom's property at Wallace and Hines, and then you have the city's property, the old power plant. As those properties start to be looked at differently, they all start to really connect nicely to create a much larger district that could have a lot of really nice value, especially from a recreation standpoint. So being able to go down to the river and, come back and ride your bike through the district, and having trails that connect people to space. There's a huge opportunity there if it's done thoughtfully. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. So Calgon, I think, is definitely a property that we've been working on continuously. I did have a conversation with the owners of Stardos this week. They're again interested in possibly leasing that space out to someone to do food. So, we've worked with them over the years, trying to, kind of help provide support as we could. At one point, the city was going to provide a small business loan to help them make the repairs. I think that's still an option. Getting that space activated and producing food again would be huge for the city and huge for the community and the surrounding businesses, and would give the owners, some revenue coming in where they haven't had any for quite a while. The building does need, some interior work. And one of the areas that we kind of recommended was, working with a tenant, letting them do tenant improvements in lieu of lease payments. Maybe that's for 6 to 8 months,
The
depending on the
health
need.
department it would have to be re-permitted as a
It would,
restaurant
and
facility.
I'm hoping that they can focus on pizza again. I think pizza is probably the low hanging fruit. It's got the beautiful pizza oven, and pizza is more of a limited prep type of
Mhm.
business. So you don't need hoods, and you don't need, all of these, major improvements. You need,
Just need a few sinks.
a few sinks, a stainless steel counter,
The
the
walls
prep
have to be
table.
treated, the
Yeah,
floors.
which is pretty minimal in comparison to what you have to do for a full prep
Yeah,
kitchen.
it's hard to imagine that
Yeah,
being a full prep
but
kitchen.
a pizza could do great. So I have made some calls. I'm trying to get a hold of Bill, with Lone Slow too, because he was really interested. And then he also had bought Blue Lake Pizza. So when he lost his space at the brewery, we lost two businesses. So that was really kind of a big hit to the city. So we're trying to kind of figure out how to bring that back in, and it may be that maybe Bill would be interested in selling Blake Pizza to someone else locally that wants to do it, as he's trying to, keep his business going. And I know he's doing a lot of catering and things right now. But I think that's like I said, that's kind of that low hanging fruit. You could do pizza, maybe deli sandwiches, salads, kind of that minimal prep type kitchen that, would be a huge value to the community. You could still do ice cream, and another ice cream shop would be great there. I think the community needs an ice cream shop. I've been following, Lolita with Jersey Scoop and seeing how amazing, that little business is doing and just
They
what a
created 10 jobs in that little
it's a
space and
huge
built a manufacturing facility
transformation.
from scratch.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
absolutely. And look what it's done to the town. Like just the energy of Thomas and those guys coming in has been amazing for Lolita, and what a community building opportunity. And so I think, something like that could be really valuable for Blue Lake as
We'd
well.
like an ice cream place here, the
We
Jersey
do.
Boys.
Yeah, we've been reaching out to them.
And I finally had the opportunity to try the ice cream.
Oh,
They have it at Eureka Natural
uh-huh.
Foods and at other
Yeah.
markets like that. It is good.
Yeah, they've done a great job. And they're really good with their marketing. They've got their tiny farmer, their little guy that just, I mean, every day they're pumping out Instagram and everything. And God, it's just such a feel good
It
business.
is.
And,
It
I mean,
is.
they're amazing. Both of those guys and their family is amazing. So,
And I want to
um,
try they have beef that they,
yeah, yeah. And they do deliver to Blue Lake too. Yeah. So,
nice.
yeah,
Worth looking
they're
into.
great.
What
So,
square footage is in the Stardos?
I am not sure. I think it's probably maybe 600 plus, definitely under 1,000. Um, it needs a new ceiling. I think it needs some flooring repair. Um, there needs to be some work to the pizza oven. There was something about it having more of a porous surface, and I'm not sure what that was about and whether it can be sealed somehow or there's other like applications maybe, that could be adhered to it so that, maybe it's covered in stainless steel or something. I don't know. But I'm working with Jenny Lee, the mom of the kids. They're not kids now, they're adults, but so that's good. There's a conversation going. And we did, when Honeycomb started, the city gave them a $10,000 loan to get started. And, we did the sidewalk improvements and everything to help facilitate that and worked with Kelly and Ross on making those improvements. And that was great. And Keiko paid off that loan, and which was awesome.
She
And
did.
yeah, she made all of her payments and extra payments and paid it off early. And, we're just super proud of, all of her hard work. And, she's got a great product. We wish she was open more. But, she's still there. So I think that's a testament to, to her her product and just how she does.
Resilience.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exciting. So, that's a way that the city can, kind of help in small ways. We don't have a lot of money, but there's ways that we can,
Has
help.
Ginny connected with the Small Business Development
We,
Center?
originally we did have her connected. We did a lot of outreach with them. We were very close to signing a loan agreement with them as well. We had gone through and got all the estimates, um, and then it kind of fell off the radar a bit. There was a lot of stuff going on with, the estate, and the kids were younger at the time too. And there was a lot of thought that maybe they wanted to open a restaurant themselves. But I think they're kind of realizing, as they've, grown their own lives and have had children, that, maybe it'd be better just to have that passive income, versus not having anything at all. So that's where I'm kind of hoping, that the city, will lend as much support as we can and make as many connections. There's always the
It's just there's going
community to
to be
help.
a fair bit of money put into that space to make it functional.
Yeah, and I think someone who is maybe has some some skills or some friends with some skills and is willing to do the sweat equity in lieu of lease payments, that can go a long
Mhm.
ways. I look at the transformation of the logger, that was a lot of community support. I know there would be community support here. And because it's a smaller space, I think it's manageable. So, the other spaces that we have, the glass blowing shop, it's possible that I had heard someone mention that they were thinking about putting it on the market. They've been doing a lot of cleanup. I've been working, keeping in contact with Angela. Her and her partner have been hauling out truckloads of stuff to the dump. They've been doing a really good job, just trying to clean up where they can, and they've made a lot of progress. So I really appreciate that continuing to move forward. And it may be that they're going to be putting it on the market, which keeping my fingers crossed. Um, so that'll be something else that we'll be, kind of tracking. And then of course there's the Emporium building. Um, and that building, our building official is working with the property owners for various health and safety code issues. Um, but as far as improvements to that building, I think there's probably a pretty substantial amount of investment that would need to be made. But, that's another one. It's a large footprint. It's a historical building. It's very frontal to the downtown from whichever way if you're going towards the river, back from the river, just around the block, it's very frontal. So that's a property that's really important for the city to consider the impacts to. So I think from my standpoint, I think this is I think this is a really good tool, and I think it's something that the city really needs to consider. Um, I don't think it's
What kind of staff time would this take require to administer something like that?
Yeah, I
And
mean, we have a building official who works 1 day a week. There's not a lot of properties. This is a known quantity,
I'm just
pretty much,
concerned that this could get mired in litigation.
Well, we already have some responsibility under our nuisance ordinance already and
For
for health and safety code violations. So the city can't abrogate its responsibility because we don't want to, put up the funds. We try and be as proactive as we can so that we don't get to that point. I mean, I've got properties that I'm working with consistently where I literally go up and be like, hey, come on, you guys, like just at least move it off the sidewalk, get this cleaned up, because the next step really is going through a nuisance abatement process, and that is lengthy and is very expensive. And ultimately, the city pays to clean it up, and then we wait to see if the property ever sells or there's anything to
Mhm.
recoup our money. So it's not it's not in the best interest of the city. So we try and be as proactive as we can. But at some point, you get properties that you need a little bit extra. You need another tool to be able to utilize. And I like the idea of, we talked about before that, if you're going to fine institute fines, could those fines then be reapplied back to the owner to make improvements? So, it's kind of the carrot and the stick a little bit, but knowing that it doesn't make any sense for us to collect money in fines and then we're just precluding the property owner from, making investment. So ultimately, the goal is to, get that money circulating back into the property. So I think it's something, like I said, I think for the future viability of our downtown, we don't have a lot of buildings. As properties transition out of residential, we need to really push for them to go back to commercial. We lost a ton of our commercial spaces to residential over the years. So that makes it very tough. The opportunity to build more in the downtown is very limited. I think the glass blowing shop is probably the best opportunity that could be demoed, and you have a quarter of a city block that could be redeveloped.
Where's
I
that at? I don't even know where that is.
Right
On
on the
gas
corner across
station.
from Lindstrand's.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know where it's
Yeah,
at.
next to the
Okay.
town square.
Yep.
So that's probably, that would be an easy demo. And, like I said, it's a quarter of a city block at that point that could be redeveloped. So
Mm.
that probably has the most potential to build any type of new economic retail in the future.
The carbon plant's a bigger site too that could do
Hmm.
housing and
Oh,
commercial.
absolutely. Yeah, it's 2 acres. And it could tie in really nicely, like I said, with the other properties if it was master planned correctly. So you could have a lot of shared parking, transit, all kinds of things. So, yeah. So I wanted to keep this one on the radar. Like I said, at some point, the city might need
More
additional
tools to
tools.
help keep
Hmm.
these from
Yeah,
deteriorating further.
yeah. And I think, it's possible some might be beyond, there's a couple that might be beyond repair, just when you look at the amount of investment it's going to take, I don't know what really happens at
Well,
that point.
eventually, they're going to get to a point where it's, you know, I would think they're not able to insure them,
Hmm. I don't think they're insured anyways. So,
which means they can't be borrowed against to improve them.
right.
Uh,
Yeah. So on that dreary thought.
mm. Does the public have any comment on the vacant commercial property assessment and ordinance discussion? Okay. Okay, it'll be back. We'll discuss this again. Okay, any other comments? Just okay. So moving on to item 7, business outreach.
Yeah, so you guys took this on at your last meeting, talking about partnering with the Chamber of Commerce to do some business outreach. We thought it was kind of time again to everyone maybe kind of divvy up and take a couple businesses and, go and talk to them about how things are going. What do they see as what their needs are? What are some barriers to their success? What are some ways that they see that the city can provide any sort of assistance? Just to, kind of get a feel for what the economic climate is right now with our businesses.
Do we
Um,
have a list of who's got a business license that we
oh,
can share
absolutely.
with the council
Hmm.
or the commission?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're really talking more like your brick and mortar businesses. That kind of narrows it down,
Mhm.
to start out with. I know the Chamber of Commerce, Justin and the Chamber have started doing this as well. And so, we were like, well, we don't want to really like badger them and have them be like, my gosh, like I got Justin knocking. Everyone's so interested. But looking at ways to partner with the chamber as well, just to, let the businesses know too that the city doesn't have a lot of resources, but, we
Well,
are
there's
interested
other
in helping.
resources that are beyond the city that they
Absolutely.
maybe could have access to through
Absolutely.
state,
Yep.
county, federal, and
Yeah.
other
And
funding
if we
opportunities.
if we know more about what the needs are or where things are trending, it's easier for staff also to help do some outreach and maybe connect people with resources, tailor maybe some training, some
Mhm.
collective discussions, workshops. I think the winter is a great time to do that for businesses. There's things that we could if we have a better understanding, there's resources that we can bring that could provide some level of benefit to our business community as well. And there maybe is just stuff happening that we're just totally unaware of.
Maybe tie it into businesses that are already here with the community so that we're aware of what other
Hmm.
opportunities there are to shop
Absolutely.
super local
Hmm.
and support very
Right.
local businesses.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's not so many businesses that we can't, have more of a personal relationship. And, I think that, we work really closely with most of our businesses and, as much as we can, we try and, especially through Parks and Recreation, we try and make those inroads as much as we can. But, we're not really economic development, focused staff, even though we've kind of had to insert ourselves into that arena just to keep our own stuff going, skating and all of that. So it has created more of a business focused climate for us.
Well, the Blue Lake Chamber members have reciprocal membership, I believe, with the Arcata Chamber, and they're getting ready to open a some sort of center in where Internews used to be in Arcata that will have SBDC, Cal Poly, and probably 2 or 3 other alphabet soups in there with the idea of having like a hub where businesses can get some support. Um, I was multitasking during the meeting when that came up, but there will be more to come on that, and it's something we should probably make sure that
Hmm.
the Blue Lake Chamber is very looped in on, if you're not already.
Have you guys started your outreach, Justin?
We have started our outreach. We've already each one's picked a business. So we have Lager Bar, we have Jewel Distillery, we have Cruising Kitchen, and I believe the other one was Keiko's. I think that was the fourth one. So yeah, we haven't had their meeting yet, so I haven't heard the reports yet. But I did meet with Jewel Distillery. That was mine. Had a a nice meeting with them. Um, they are very blunt, very straightforward, and I'm a very blunt, straightforward person. I really appreciated
Yep.
their blunt and straightforwardness. Um, Good people. I really like them. I look forward to hearing more from them.
They have two businesses in the operating out of that
Yeah.
facility. In addition to Jewel, they've got Lasso Security Cables. It makes a kayak lock, so they've got two in that one space.
Oh, I was unaware of that.
Mhm.
Okay then. Also, since I'm kind of already talking anyway, if any of you guys want to come to a chamber meeting, it's every second Monday at 5:30. So next Monday at 5:30. We would love to have you guys at least one of you guys show up. And if one of you want to become a board member, I'd be more than happy to approve that.
Are the meetings here or
They are right here at 5:30 on the second Monday of every month.
And they have a really good group. They've got some new people. They're really taking on a lot of new tasks with enthusiasm. And, so I think the chamber's really doing a great job and just really getting their feet under them, which is will provide a lot of support for our businesses too, and we're all trying to kind of figure this out. Like, how do we all, do this together, and how do we connect events to business, and doing that with a pretty skeleton crew. But I think, with the chamber's help, those members all represent other businesses as well. And so that's just more people feeding information, making connections, bringing information back. So there's a lot of really good dialogue taking place.
does the public have any comment on business outreach at this time? Thank you. Okay. Are there any other comments on the ongoing business outreach? Okay, we'll revisit this again because it is important and it's evolving all the time. Okay, so moving on to item 8, the City of Blue Lake project updates discussion, items A and B, Town Square and Powers Creek.
Yeah, so the town square just received power today. We're super excited. We were supposed to receive it in March, and we begged and pulled in every favor and um, backdoor call to whoever we all knew in PG&E to get the power turned on early. So we now have dedicated power. So that means we can operate the splash pad and we can hook up food trucks, and we will have power for the holiday season, which will be great. So we'll have a lit holiday tree. And yeah, so we're really excited. We had the opening of the splash pad. We did a pop-up water day a couple weeks ago, and it was amazing. We had probably the most beautiful day we've had in Blue Lake for a long time, and we had so many kids and families and community members come out uh, to experience the splash pad, and we served over 200 servings of ice cream, so we know we had a lot of people.
No kidding.
But yeah, it was super exciting, and just really lovely to see, the kids playing and being used and enjoyed by, the community and the families. And we got all the sod in, so it has a beautiful green lawn. And we installed all that in house. That was a big undertaking. We did almost 4,000 square feet of sod in a day with Public Works, Parks and Rec, and then the rest of the city staff and my son. I wrote my son into doing it too. So, so that was good. So the park is almost complete. We are going to be putting up the shade trellis. The Old Crows are coordinating that with Schmidt Bauer and North Fork Lumber. They're donating all of the lumber and some of the design work, and they're using some specialized milling tools to be able to pre-cut all of the lumber to size. So they're kind of using it as a pilot project as well to kind of showcase some of the new technology that they have. So that's kind of a fun project that working with George Schmidt-Bauer Jr. on that project and Ken Dunn from North Fork Lumber. So that will be kind of the last part to go up, and we hope to have that done. I'm hoping by the end of the month. They keep getting a little bit more intricate and like with the design. So I'm like, hey, let's just bench this down and get it done. So, but it's been a great project. We'll be installing some additional seating. And when we have days where we have food trucks, we'll be able to have different types of, bistro tables and things so people can sit out and eat and enjoy their lunch. And maybe their kids can play in the splash pad or their dogs can run through it. I don't know. So that project is almost complete. The Powers Creek District is it's just really moving forward in a lot of different ways. I'm really excited. We just wrapped up the EDA grant that did all the master planning work for the RV park and campground. And because of that work that we've done, we've received such a huge amount of interest in the Powers Creek District. The Bottawat mixed use development project is moving through the CEQA process. It's almost complete and ready to go to the Planning Commission. Our housing element is moving through the CEQA process, and that will be going to the council. I don't know if it goes to October or if we have to take it in November, depending upon the 30-day mark. Um, so those projects are moving forward. It's a really amazing design. I'm really happy with, how the considerations that the architect is making, that the developer is making, really focus on recreation and creating that connection to space and the creek and the bike park, and just really recognizing that this is such an anchor for Blue Lake, and it's really our first big project like this in a really long time. It's been a long time since Blue Lake's built any housing of size. And, just the thought that this really sets the tone for the rest of the district moving forward. I think they've been really respectful of that. And so I'm really, really grateful to have that level of commitment. Um, the bike park is, the bike park is just going amazingly well. We're actually looking right now to pave the jump lines. All the jump lines are in, and we are working with Mercer Fraser, RAO Construction, and some of our other contractors locally to donate materials. So we need asphalt donations. And then RCMBA in partnership with Wildland Operators and some of our other local community members will be basically hand forming the jumps with the asphalt. So we're so far beyond where I ever thought this bike park would be. I mean, when we first envisioned it, it was going to be this little, bike park that we were going to be out there with shovels and wheelbarrows, and people just came forward and were like, this could be something so spectacular. This could really be like the top bike park in Northern California potentially, and it's going to be a huge anchor for Blue Lake. And so, with that in mind and that potential and those investments, we expanded a little bit and moved things around, and it's really coming together in a way I really just had never expected. So a lot of work is being done. A lot of donations have come in. We've spent about $11,000 so far on the bike park, and 5,000 of that was from a PG&E grant. So to have that little amount of money go as far as it has, this could easily be a $250,000 bike park, so easily. And so I think it just speaks to how recreation is such a driver, and is going to just have such a huge benefit. So that's really exciting. We did receive a written offer for the corporation yard, and that'll be going to council. Um, at their upcoming meeting in October to discuss that. That'll be a closed session item because it's property negotiations, but
Does that get surplused and then
it already
they
has.
already
Yeah.
okay.
All of our properties that aren't developed all every year go through the surplus lands process. That's mandated by the state. And so we've been in working with the Eisner family and the Kane family for about a year to look at developing the courtyard. And so they came forward just recently with a written proposal. I think it's a very strong proposal. And I'm really happy to see, you know, them continuing to want to invest in Blue Lake as owners of B&B across the street. You know, just seeing the vision and being willing to make a large scale investment to go the next step, I think is really exciting. So that will be going to council. They're also working with a sports development group locally, Hits Sports Club, and they are looking to develop the B&B property into an indoor and outdoor sports complex, which I think it's like my dream project.
We've seen that in earlier meetings.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty
that's
amazing.
yeah, so that's all moving forward. In fact, they met today to talk about structuring whether it's a land purchase or a land lease or a
Wow.
partnership. So that's moving forward.
Our whole county could benefit
Oh, it would
so
be
big from that.
huge.
And that'd
Yeah,
be two really simpatico projects out there that would bring in
absolutely. Yeah.
people
Yeah,
So much.
involved.
lots of you know, just lots of family, lots of you know, people out of their cars, walking, biking, recreating, you know, to have those indoor facilities, especially in this area where, you know, the kids around here, I mean, we don't even get on baseball fields till, you know, sometimes late April, May, you know, with everything being underwater. So, you know, to have indoor training facilities like that where these kids can kind of get that leg up and be competitive because everyone else is training year round. You know, my son just got done with baseball, you know, on his travel team, and it's, you know, October. So, you know, they're playing 8 months out of the year, if not longer. So,
Hmm.
um, to be competitive, you need these facilities. And I think Blue Lake's perfectly situated as such a baseball town, anyways, to be
Yes.
able to take advantage of that and then be able to cross that over with our outdoor recreation facilities as well. So, I'm really excited about that project as well. And then the final project is the power plant. We're working with a company right now called Power Transitions to look at a battery storage project. They're really interested. It's one of the projects that we had identified early on when we looked at the master planning was to look at utilizing that interconnect to somehow continue to be in the energy market, but not have to do, you know, an actual operating plant. And battery storage is, you know, one of the new big focal points because you can produce the energy, but if you have nowhere to send it when you need it, you know, it's a loss. So the real stopgap measure is the battery storage. So, and that's what these companies do. They're very benign. They're basically shipping containers full of Tesla walls, and you just purchase energy when it's cheap and sell it when it's needed on the grid, and no one knows that it's even there. So we had identified about 5 acres of the site for energy production or some type of energy scale project in conjunction with master planning the RV park and campground. So I'm really excited. This is a very well vested company, has a lot of expertise in this arena. They're very interested
What was the
in the
company
site is
name again?
Power Transitions. And we're working with RCEA as well on this project. RCEA, you know, is kind of our energy kind of broker guru of choice. And so we've been working really closely with them as well on kind of facilitating this dialogue. And then we've released the RV park and campground project to a couple of companies who work in the hospitality industry that had heard about the project and were really interested to look at the project and see the numbers. We're getting some pretty solid feedback on that as well. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of what's going on in the Powers Creek district. Oh, and then Jacques is back at the chocolate factory. He bought back the prior company. He partnered with Sergio, who was one of his employees in the past, and so now they've partnered, and so we've re-signed the lease with them to keep the chocolate factory going. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's
and so
important.
yeah, so we talked with Jacques too and Sergio about pop-up retail days, or if there's, opportunities where maybe it's once a month, the community can come down and maybe you have a chocolate sale or something, just to kind of have that, kind
I
of
like
build a little more enthusiasm around retail down there as well. And they said that would be fine. They could do that. So we're happy to have Jacques and Sergio there and to have that revenue coming back in, because we had kind of gotten caught up in the bankruptcy of the former company because our property was there and all the fixed assets. So we lost some revenue on that. So we're happy to have that tenant back. And um, so that was kind of a seamless transition. And that's about all I have for those projects. If you guys
Is
have
that
any
it?
questions, I
That's
know.
that's
I was watching the
plenty.
time. I'm like, okay, I can speed through this.
Is there
Yeah,
any social media on the bike track?
Yeah, so we launched a Blue Lake Bike Park Facebook page, and I cross promote it to the Blue Lake Happenings page.
Okay.
And actually, I just did some posts today because we are doing a fundraiser. So we have, we're constantly, thanking our sponsors and, trying to get that out and then cross promoting that to be like, hey, like these guys donated. Would you like to also? So there's some new stuff. I'm going to be taking some pictures and stuff tomorrow to update because I haven't taken pictures for a while. So
And what's the Facebook page called?
it's just, I think it's Blue Lake Bike Park,
Okay.
and then
I was at
Blue.
an automotive shop and there was a conversation with a local Blue Lake person, and
Oh,
the guy behind the counter was like, "Do any of you know about the bike park and when it's going to be done?" And I was just like, "I don't know how to guide you with that." Yeah,
it is
but I have to
insane
go
how
back there
many
next week, so I'll
people.
tell him.
Yeah, we have had so much support from Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association, and we're also partnering with Humboldt Skate Collective because there will also be a half pipe for the skateboarders as well.
Nice.
So it's all being designed in partnership. So everyone is raising funds, and they've got lots of volunteers. So yeah, it's been such a great project to bring so many people together.
And then
That's
they could have
wonderful.
events there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it really will be a premier location. I think that there's a whole host of opportunities to have demonstrations and competitions, and yeah, it's going to be pretty large for our region. People travel all over to go to bike parks with their families. And I think down here, especially being able to, like, as a parent, be able to just sit out and go let your kid ride at a bike park, and whether you're sitting in the sun reading a book, or having a coffee or having lunch, and your kids are in a safe environment and they're just recreating, and being able to come across the bridge and you're right in Perigo Park, like, it's really spectacular when you think collectively of how much recreation space Blue Lake has. It's really impressive. And it's such a great community for that.
Mhm.
So it's
It's historic.
it really is.
Recreation has always been historic. I mean,
Absolutely.
people who've lived around here have memories of going
Yep.
to the games, and
Hmm.
basketball,
Skating.
baseball.
Yeah.
That was
Horses,
Is
all
that
of it.
maybe a future agenda item, like how to appeal to different recreation segments, or is that more of a Parks and Rec thing? I've just been thinking it'd be nice to get bird watchers on out here because
I think with the bird watchers, we actually have a lot of bird watchers. The biggest area for bird watching is across the bridge. And the city has been trying for years to work with the two property owners to acquire that property. Fish and Wildlife has the finance or the funding available that they could acquire it for the city. We would love to acquire it and manage it and clean it up. We cannot get the property owners to agree. Um, and the problem over there is there are transient camps. It's over vegged with invasives. We
which
just had
makes
a
it a
fire
fire
there.
risk.
We had a fire there last week.
Hmm.
We had a dog attack,
Oh my gosh.
a few months ago, a really serious one. So it's become a real nuisance property. And, we continue to try and make those inroads. Fish and Wildlife would love for the city to be the holder of that property, because then they recognize the value of the habitat, but also the recreation value.
Well, I think that's a great way to offset some of this loss of open space we have with what's going on over in Powers Creek.
We've been working on it. We've been working on it very seriously for years. And like I said, the funding's there. The funding's going to run out soon. And we've been trying to, kind of put that push, and hoping that maybe with some of these recent issues that the property owners would be like, hey, this is just too much liability, because it's very much a, just an absentee landowner. There's no management taking place. It's the land is being impacted by garbage, by dumping, fires, invasives. But it's a beautiful property for recreation. The trails are amazing. I mean, I've used those trails my whole life. My dad used them as a kid. My dad's going to be 82.
Isn't
So
there a pond back there too?
there's a pond back there. The trails go all the way to Arcata.
Yeah.
So
We're
Is there
kind
any way that it could be part of like the nuisance policies
we've
that's
been
already
working with
with
the county, so we have partnered with the county on that. The county did come out and do a nuisance
County.
kind of assessment.
is it, it's not
It's not
private?
the city,
I thought it was
no.
Yeah,
private.
I mean,
Oh, but it's in the county.
It's
It
in the
owns a
county.
small piece of county,
Okay.
a city property over there.
We own a small piece of it, but it's in the county jurisdiction. It's kind of
Oh, okay.
quasi,
Okay.
kind
So
of
it's not
kind of runs
annexed.
across
It's
into.
okay.
Yeah. The county would defer that jurisdiction to us, and the county would be happy if the city would take it over. We all have the same goal, especially with all the recreation. Like, we
Yeah.
need bathrooms, we need better parking, we need safe crossings for people. I mean, when we had those hot days this summer, we had thousands of people down there, and it was a cluster. And,
Yeah.
it
you
really
know,
was.
oh, it's insane because you have
How many
gravel
summers
trucks
did it
coming
go? Did
through.
somebody hit a power pole and start a fire?
Oh yeah, that was a
It's like 2 years
couple
ago.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's definitely high on our list.
I mean, that
But
seems. I mean, that's
it has
perfect.
amazing bird watching habitat. It has
Awesome.
historical, oh my gosh, historical cottonwoods that you don't find very often around here anymore. So it's a place where Audubon, their members come out a lot to go birding.
Yeah, I'd like to catch up with them
Hmm.
sometime out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's covered all the things on the project updates here in item 8.
That's about all I have, I think. Yeah.
That's plenty.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
It is. And it's, big things don't always move fast, but they keep going and these are percolating.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I'm always happy that other people see the vision as well. And so I think that just gives, a lot of credence to the direction that the city's been going and all the work that the council's been doing and the rezoning and the thoughtfulness around, the work that's been done, that we are attracting investment and it's, the type of investment we had hoped to attract. So I'm like I said, and having people who already own property down there who are successful business owners wanting to invest more is I think even more of a testament to just the future success of Blue Lake.
I do have to say something. I drove by when the splash pad
Oh,
day, and I walked around there. Actually, I got in my car and walked around. It was just one of those special days that you just felt the excitement and seeing the community. Those kids were so
oh, they just
so
loved it.
cute. Their little bikinis.
Yeah, we shut it down at 6 o'clock because we had council that night. So I was like, you guys, you got to be done because we had to run it off a generator. So
Oh,
I had to run up. I'm like, you guys have to be done. Like, get your towels. It's getting cold. I've got to take this generator. But yeah, they had so much fun all day
I
long.
did.
So
I almost felt like I wanted to put my feet in the water, but I
That could
think
be a
I'm a little big for it.
birthday party venue
Oh,
now that you've got
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
No, that was memorable.
Yeah,
Very
and I think we're the only place in Humboldt County that has a splash pad. So,
think you are.
and that's what the grant wanted the kids to pick a feature. It mandated that the kids have something installed that they wanted. And so I think that's
And
great.
when we sat out there getting ideas, I mean, we
Yeah.
sat out there a couple Saturdays
Oh yeah, how many
and
meetings we had.
had the tables with the post-it notes and
Mhm.
everything else, and it was great.
Mhm.
That was the kids wanted a water
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Cool. Does the public have any comment on the Blue Lakes project updates? Well, thank you for joining us.
thanks for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
There's another meeting at 6:30.
Yeah, we got to get going.
Oh, we better hustle. Okay, so moving up to item 9, the chamber update. So your meeting is next week.
Yes.
Is there an update?
We kind of gave it to us on your up above.
Is
Yeah,
there- is
I
it
kind of
outreach?
kind of give you the last month's, but I had already given you guys last month's, and I can't give you this month's because we haven't had it yet.
But you have invited us and reminded us to
I have,
be here.
and
feel.
I actually just sent out the email with all the agenda. We've got a pretty healthy agenda this week or this month. I believe there's 8 items on the agenda this month. That's one of the bigger ones we've had.
Holiday programming's coming up, so
Yes, that is one of them.
Okay. Well, thank you. And we have the more public for updating. Okay. So then we also have item 10 here, Parks and Rec event schedule update. Is the holiday programming as discussed?
yeah,
Or
so we're just kind of diving in. We had Medieval Festival last weekend. That took a lot of staff time, but it was amazing. And I know there had been some commentary on some of the social media apparently that that this should have been a Blue Lake School event, and why did Coastal Grove get the blah blah blah. I just want to dispel all of that. This is a very collaborative event between Coastal Grove, the city of Blue Lake School, and a lot of other
Lake
schools in the
Saddle Club?
county. The Saddle Club, our archery club. It's a huge moneymaker for Blue Lake Parks and Recreation. We also did the bounce house. We do really well on that. I heard Blue Lake School did really, really well for their 8th grade trip and their PTO. They're heavily involved. It's very much a collective, collaborative event. And so I just wanted to throw that out because someone had said there was some kind of commentary going back and forth about it and kind of painting it in kind of a negative light. And I just, the event organizers, Bettina especially, works incredibly hard on this
It's
event
a lot of
and
volunteer hours.
lots and lots of volunteer hours. And it was from everything I've heard. I was in Medford at a baseball tournament, but everything I heard was everything went really well. I had two not really complaints, but just, like, hey, next year's maybe this type of comments. And otherwise, I've just heard nothing but positive. So, it's a busy weekend for everyone. It's a busy weekend for everyone who lives around the park. I think most people who live around the park, though, we recognize that we live around a park. And, with parks come happy people and laughing kids and
Occasional
screaming and
jousting.
occasional, yes, people jousting on horses in suits of armor.
And
So,
lots of cars.
and lots of cars. And we've all learned to kind of deal with that. We have our own cones now, and people are really respectful. It used to be, you'd come home and your driveways were blocked and everything, but now it's people have gotten, as neighbors, we all, kind of understand how to deal with that. So it's just nice to see our parks being used, to see so many people enjoying Blue Lake. So, for a little bit of impact over a weekend, I think the trade-off is pretty palatable. And, Roxanne, you're right in the middle of it too. And, I mean, sometimes you just got to be like, hey, I can either be part
It was
of it
so
and figure
warm.
it.
It
Yeah.
was so warm.
That's where it was really hot. So,
Now, one comment that I had from somebody that
Mhm.
actually went down there, and was there food down
Oh,
there?
there was tons of food.
So it was not in the park.
The food was in by the horse arena.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's
And
good
they kind of
because
do that so that they can get everyone paying an entry fee. And the stuff
okay,
over the park, there's no entry fee. But there was food in the park. I think Casey was here with Cruising Kitchen. The kids were selling pretzels. There were drinks and different things. But I think there was 10 food vendors
okay,
in the horse
good,
arena.
because
Yeah.
I would report that back
Yeah.
because there was some concern, and we were actually thinking at the museum that we might want to have the pizza guy
Oh, hmm.
there, and maybe
Yeah, just
next
some
year.
overflow.
Yeah,
It's typically the first week in October. It's annually. It's usually when it is.
okay.
Yep.
So we were going to reach out to him because that really does help because he
Hmm.
pays us $1 a pizza, I think, isn't it?
In the past, he's done
Yeah,
that.
he's
Yeah.
done that. So
Oh, wow.
that
But
helps
he
us.
can't produce them very quickly.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, so there's not,
I don't know.
we might get $5, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, like I said, I just wanted to kind of throw that out in case anyone had heard that as a complaint. It's definitely we all work together. We're all very happy with the event. The school's very happy with the event. And the school traditionally has had Hoptoberfest as their big fundraiser. So this has always been Coastal Grove's big fundraiser, but Bettina's been very gracious and inviting schools to come in and do what they can to raise money for their own program. So
Nice.
When
great
is
project.
Hoptoberfest? Is
I don't know if
I
they're
or
having.
did it?
Oh, you know what? I heard they're having it at the casino.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
And they're having a Halloween carnival. The school is
Oh yeah, we'll have our Halloween carnival.
October.
Yeah.
The parking was all in the district,
Mm-hmm.
and people just walk over the bridge. It was perfect.
Yeah.
That district was full of cars.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we gonna do when that gets developed for parking for festivals?
Well,
That's a
when
good
you have a
problem to
parking
have,
problem, it's a
yeah.
good problem to have, exactly.
Okay, it will come up.
And all of, our spaces, I mean, we are developing parking in different spaces and cluster parking and things,
Well,
but
maybe we could have a shuttle from the casino or
shuttles would
something.
be great. Yeah.
Add that
Mm-hmm.
with some events too.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of creative solutions to that, which would be a really great problem to have. So,
And less cars is okay for me
Mhm.
too. So the fall program, there's a Halloween carnival. There's you're getting into the skate season,
Yeah, we're really
and
pushing hard into skating. And then we'll go right into holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving type stuff. Last year we did the light parade and then the holiday dinner, which was super fun. I hope we do that again.
oh my gosh, next month is November.
Yeah, we're thinking about possibly seeing if we could get a barn dance in November. But it steamrolls on you so fast. We're like just coming out of summer and it's like we got to be ready for this. And like it's Emily and Austin over there, and they still got to go and make sure there's dog poop bags in the park. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like all these things. So it's a lot, for a small community. There's a lot that goes on here, and we have been working really hard to try and bring in more, like Gloria Baker and Yahira, who did the block party and stuff. Getting people like that who want to do events and providing them as much support as we can, but like letting them take some of that on has been amazing. So just building those partnerships is really crucial because we just don't have the capacity to do everything we'd like to do, but we definitely can be advocates and help in any way. So
Okay, so that's the update on the Parks and Rec schedule to be
yep.
continued. Are there any announcements?
No.
Once, twice.
The museum is open through the month of October, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4. And we had people come in during the medieval.
Oh, good.
We did. And it was interesting because it's like, I live in Blue Lake and I've never been in there. You get that, but
Oh yeah.
it's because we're not open all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's part of it. But it was good to have them educated.
Right.
Yeah,
Fun.
good.
Were they all dressed up?
I wasn't there,
Oh.
but
I was there and they came in because it was so hot.
Oh.
By the time they were walking down the trail, they wanted someplace to go into to be
Oh,
cool.
just to cool off. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
so
It
we
was
should
like
put a
90.
sign, air conditioned building or
Right.
something like that when there's an event. Yeah.
Now, that's what was nice about the park being part of it, because there was
Mhm.
shade.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. But isn't that like the medieval way, to be
Yeah, suffering,
dusty,
dust.
sweaty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glistening.
Okay,
Now,
so a
do you
few.
guys on future agenda items? Did you want to go over those? Because I'm not sure.
I think it will be similar to the current agenda.
Yeah, I think these are all good kind of holders, as we
Okay.
just kind of continue to have dialogue. And like I said, I think the retail cannabis ordinance, I think it'd be nice to be able to send something to council maybe in
What are you
December.
looking for to send then? Just a resolution that
I
says,
think just maybe not necessarily even a recommendation, but just information on what the commission has found through their research.
so you needed like a typed up thing?
Yeah, we probably want to, synthesize, here are some of the things, that we think are areas of concern. Here are some things that we think
And so I took some notes about
maybe,
Lori's concerns and
yeah, and those have been articulated.
Yeah,
a number of times.
we just need to make
Um,
sure we've
I think they're
incorporated.
more interested in what are other community impacts? What are other communities seeing? And then maybe what are people seeing as maybe future trends that instead of maybe us being on the back end, are there things that we need to be thinking about to take a leap forward? And whether that's looking at, some forms of legalization that start to make, certain products more available
I
or,
just think there's probably going to be a limited number of spaces where the property owner is willing to work with that type of business to begin with. And I don't think they need a huge retail space, but they're going to have some security issues and the willing landlord who doesn't
and
have a bank loan that's where
depending
it's
on how things change in the future with legislation, maybe not so much too, you know? So, I mean, I think they're also seeing like, is it kind of like overkill to have like security guards and all this stuff in some of these places? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
State requirement, I
yeah.
think.
And I
Yeah.
think, the state's looking at have they placed too much of a burden on business for business to be successful with all I mean everyone was so scared of it like they heaped on every regulation you could think of thinking that everyone needed armed guards and all this stuff and it's like but you could go into a liquor store and it's just one person behind the counter and at some point it starts to become
It's
like
a
it's a
different
legal
kind of, you're treating
product
it differently. There's like a moralistic
they really did,
tax
yeah,
on it.
yeah. And I think in some areas, maybe maybe it makes sense if you have more cultivation and raw product and different things. But if you're just a small
Well,
retail
it is
front,
a substance that can be abused too.
yeah, just like alcohol
And
and cigarettes
and
and
then
vape.
perhaps, yeah, but we have shrinkage if it's
Mm-hmm.
people are going out of the area for it. Leakage. Sorry. Okay, so future agenda items. More of the
Retail cannabis.
retail
Mm-hmm.
cannabis.
Yeah, if we can kind of wrap that up, maybe.
Okay. And are there any other future agenda items? I think we're okay. So I guess we're ready to adjourn. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion that we end the meeting today at what is it, 5:57.
5:57.
And I'll second that.
Second and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.